Hello fellow pirates and welcome back to Dreadlock Gaming. Today I'm going to show you one of my favorite builds, the Ultimate Fort Buster. We will go over everything you need for the build and why each item is being used. Now let's get started with the build. First thing we're going to look at is what ship we're going to use. We're going to use the Patowakang. The reason behind that is the perks. It's very good whenever it comes to structures and explosives. Its DPS specialized in dealing damage and status effects. The DPS favors an aggressive playstyle. Here's the one that deals with structures and explosions. Explosive hits have a 70% chance to trigger an explosion, which deals 1,000 damage within a 125 meter blast radius. If a target ship is ablaze, an additional explosion will trigger at 100% chance per explosion hit. Increases damage to structures by 50% and weapon damage radius by 12%. This is a nice one as too. Siege. At half sails or anchored, increases weapon damage by 20% and decreases reload time by 15% for explosive weapons. That's great. It means more damage to structures, more damage to ships whenever you're not moving or if you're just moving slowly. Now, let's take a look at which weapons we're going to use. First weapon we're going to look at, Twin Winch Ballista. This is going to be the main weapon you use to deal damage to structures. Reason is, long range. You attack the fort from outside the plunder zone, take it out. The fort can do damage to you whenever you're outside the plunder zone, out to a certain range. Sit outside that range as well. Do damage to the fort. Take it out before you even start to plunder. Nice thing about the Twin Winch. Maximum charge. Damage increases 600%. That's going to be a lot of extra damage. Adds 20% damage as piercing damage increases damage to weak points by 75%. That's a lot more damage. Damage per shot 788. Piercing damage 187. Weak point damage 225%. Charge time 2 seconds. It's a great weapon for using for fort plunders. Now, for your port, starboard, and aft, you're going to do Dardanelles all the way around. It is the highest damage explosive weapon there is in the game currently at 4,397. Unison fires all of your cannons on that particular side of the ship all at once. Explosive 3 adds 30% of damage as explosive damage in a 40 meter blast radius. That's a lot of damage. So you get 3382 plus 1014. That's nice. Weak point damage 150%. Blast radius 40 meters. It's very nice. Now, you could go with either or of these weapons. The Leopold 3, or you could do the Warhammer. I prefer the Leopold 3 because I'm mainly using it against ships. Warhammer doesn't have as much range. With the Leopold 3, I can shoot over obstacles. Warhammer can't do that. Plus, the Leopold 3 shoots far enough out to where I can get the perk from our main furniture. Now, let's check out what armor I'm using. Armor, player's choice. I prefer using the Black Prince. That way, if the fort or ships get me down below 33% health, then I've got damage mitigation. You could throw on the Buccaneer's Oath if you wanted to. Give you that extra 25% more armor, extra 25% damage. But I don't really think it's needed. This ship's capable of doing pretty much any fort except for Megafort. Megafort's pretty hard to do solo. This ship can do Primi by itself. Any other fort, not a problem. Now, let's take a look at our furnitures. Our main furniture that we're going to use is going to be the scoping station. You hit a target from more than 320 meters away, it applies the mark status. Targets that have the mark status, 100% more damage to weak points. That increases your damage to weak points on structures a lot. Next thing we're going to go, Bombard Menaceur. Bombard damage by 10%, increases damage to structures by 8%. Both of those are things we want. Now, the third perk isn't going to come into play here because we're not doing any repair stuff. And unless we're in a group, we're not getting repaired by repair weapons unless we have somebody who's doing healing. Next thing, Fatana Station. Fatana Station has the increased rocket damage by 12%. If you're using Warhammer, this will come into play. I prefer the Leopold 3 for its range and to be able to shoot over obstacles. But 12% damage to structures. That's the main reason we're using it. Next thing, Ballista Works. Increases elemental damage multiplier of Ballista by 19%. Some people might try to argue that the Twin Winch doesn't have any elemental damage, but I can guarantee you, I have tested it, Ballista Works does add extra damage to structures whenever you have it on the ship. Next thing, front powder kegs. Increases front damage weapon by 10%. That's 10% more damage to the structures, 10% more damage to ships if you happen to shoot them with a Twin Winch. Vat of Volatiles is going to be our last furniture. That's 15% more damage to structures. You are stacking a lot of damage to your Twin Winch and damage to structures. Those are the main things. So you have extra damage for everything, pretty much. Extra damage for your bombards, extra damage for your Twin Winch, extra damage towards structures. Alright, that's the build. Now, let's go test it out. Today I'm going to go and do Fort Granby. Why am I doing Fort Granby? It's not a hard one. It's not an easy one. It's not going to take too long to do it. This ship is capable of doing Fort Primy by itself, solo. But, save a little bit of time and not make this a super long video, I chose Granby. Let's sail on over and take Fort Granby down. You can use whatever food you want. I just normally run the regular run-of-the-mill food. You could do a damage mitigation food if you wanted. You do a brace food. Doesn't matter. You can hit structures from 1,300 meters out, just like the weapon says. Has a range of 1,300 meters. I usually don't go that far out, but I stay outside the range of the weapons from the fort, which their range is further than the plunder zone is. Now, start out by taking some walls out. $52.7K on the first hit. 105.6K on the second hit. And every hit after that will be at least 105K. Four shots. Walls down. I got a buddy of mine says he's seen it hit for 125, 130K. I haven't seen that, but he says that that's a little rare. 105K is what you're always going to hit for after that initial first shot when you get the marked status effect on it. Now let's go around to the other side so we can hit that one last wall. Then we'll start to plunder. Fort's down. Oh, I missed that. Big time. We got these ships coming in. Let's take them out before we activate. The fort will call for help before you even activate a plunder sometimes. That increased reload is very nice whenever you're sitting still. Let's get this plunder going. Now, if you have a whole bunch of plunders for a single place, like me, I have 5 plunders for Fort Granby right now. I do suggest that you pick up all the loot from the ship, from the buoy here, along the way. Otherwise, you won't be able to pick any of it at the end because you'll be loaded down with raw commodities. There you have it. Fort's done. Fort's down. Never had to fight the fort while I was fighting ships. Twin ballista for the win. Thanks for watching Dreadlock Gaming. Keep an eye out for more Skull and Bones videos. Hit that like and subscribe. Also check out Banished Souls Official. They've got their own YouTube. Come and join us on Banished Souls Discord. Link in the description. Remember, never give up the ship.